Hello everyone, welcome to Rainbow Infinity. Today I'll be reading RarityEQM's Happy. If you like the reading, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Please enjoy. Happy. Fat drops of rain hammered at the windows, crashing against the glass as if Mother Nature herself were demanding entry into the small library and full enraged when she was denied. Not that Twilight Sparkle noticed in the slightest. The weaving scrolls of parchment strewn about the floor, the enchanting scent of freshly brewed tea, and rows upon rows of open books kept the unicorn oblivious to the raging storm outside. And just when she thought it couldn't get any better, the salty, alluring scent of popcorn dipped in low and tickled under her nose. It almost masked the scent of the blue unicorn who was casually waving the bowl under Twilight's muzzle. But Twilight had come to discover there was no scent in the world like Trixie's, and she'd recognize it anywhere. It was like lilacs, with a hint of something sweet yet spicy underneath. In short, it was distracting. Very distracting. Where were we? The great and powerful Trixie has lost her spot, thanks to Twilight Sparkle's insistence at taking a break. Trixie groaned with a mock pout. Twilight smirked and casually gestured towards the couch where she rested, to which Trixie grinned and prominently rolled the well-curved roundness of her flank into position next to Twilight, and a playful nudge of her hip sent a crimson tint across the lavender unicorn's cheeks. Quickly, she picked up the book she'd been reading and threw her muzzle into it. Ahem! Fairy Flicker's law suggests that the use of sympathetic magic when combined with illusionary magic creates a direct contradiction to elemental principles. This on its own renders the idea of using it in your stage show incompatible. However, binding a synthetic magic to a sympathetic fetish or totem could in theory construct an elemental charge in the nature of the spell, making it something you very well could use in tandem with your illusionary spells. In theory, of course. It would have to be a charm, really, and if we want to get down to broad basics, illusionary can both count as shadow magic and water magic, respectively. As both, Twilight began, but Trixie made a sound that kind of resembled a goat, forcing Twilight to stop in mid-sentence. Trixie shook her head. Too complicated. If Trixie is to use a spell in her show, it must be simple to cast, simple to fix if something goes wrong, and simple to prepare. If Trixie must bind elementals together, Trixie is working too hard, Trixie explained. Twilight giggled and rolled her eyes, batting the cobalt unicorn with her tail. Oh, and we'd hate to have the great and powerful Trixie working hard. Perish the thought. Hard work is for the plebeians underneath her. Twilight snickered. Trixie grinned and twisted around. Quite suddenly, toppling over Twilight, belly to belly with her knees straddling Twilight's hips, which sent the book crashing to the floor. Well, Trixie wasn't going to say anything, but Twilight does make an excellent servant. Trixie has been thinking about putting Twilight in a maid's outfit to help around the wagon. Trixie grinned, forcing a much darker crop of pink to tint across Twilight's nose. She squirmed under Trixie's weight, once more succumbing to Trixie's unwavering talents in the art of distraction. I would never, Twilight sputtered. Trixie grinned, rolling her eyes, her muzzle inches from Twilight's, their breath mingling together. Prince style. Oh, yes. Black with little white frills. Very short. Flank exposed, of course, Trixie mumbled, her nose brushing against Twilight's now. The unicorn was blushing even deeper, squirming against the other mage, and Twilight felt the last of her restraint wash away, and lost herself to a warm, suckling kiss. You know, keep this up and we'll never get any work done. I certainly hope you're happy, Twilight mumbled, and squeaked in surprise when Trixie suddenly climbed from her seat, breaking the kiss and pulling away with a cold shudder. Time had stopped, and the world crumbled away around her. Happy? Trixie could feel the pulse of something shatter inside of her, tearing through the fabric of the evening's comfort and surging to the top. Twilight tilted her head in confusion, reaching a tentative hoof towards the other mage curiously. "Trixie?" she asked, but the blue unicorn said nothing, slowly gazing around the room, at the popcorn, the scrolls, the tea, and the endless books. She sat down, turning her gaze slowly towards the main window of the library. Outside, the storm raged and swirled and screamed, cold, wet, violent, and angry. Outside, where it couldn't get to her. Outside, where Trixie wasn't. Not in her little wagon, wondering if the roof would blow off and she'd have to start all over again. Not in her little wagon, desperately trying to patch leaks and finding new ones. Not in her little wagon where she huddled under blankets and hoped things would be over soon. No, she was here, in her mere friend's library, illuminated by flickering candlelight and dry and safe and warm. It was a dream come true, the answer to the lonesomeness of a showmare's life. It was everything she'd ever wanted, wasn't it? So why was she crying? "Trixie, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you." Hey, come here. I'm sorry," Twilight cooed, and wrapped her hooves around the trembling showmare, sitting down to peer out the window next to her. Slowly, Trixie shook her head and leveled her tear-stained eyes at Twilight. I'm not upset," she muttered softly. Twilight tilted her head curiously, and Trixie leaned against her, tears increasing, her body quaking under a sudden emotional onslaught. "I am happy. I'm happy, Twilight, and that's the problem," she sputtered quietly, wrapping her arms around Twilight in turn, holding on to the embrace like it were a life-preserver. "I forgot what it felt like. What if it all goes away again? What if I can't remember how to get back here? What if I don't deserve this? What if I have to leave?" Trixie sobbed quietly. Twilight shook her head, cupping Trixie's cheeks in her hooves, and leaned forward to look Trixie in the eye. She sat there for a minute, wildly searching for what was wrong, or at least how to solve the immediate problem in her lap. Trixie, her poor, poor Trixie, who'd been through so much and struggled so hard, only to reach the crossroads of uncertainty. What was Twilight supposed to say to make this better? To fix an insurmountable depression threatening to overthrow her new mare friend? Nothing came to mind, and yet words started to spill from her lips anyway. Even if it wasn't poetic, or particularly heartwarming, it was the truth. It's all Twilight had, and she meant every word. "You don't have to leave. You don't ever have to go anywhere. And if you do, I'll go with you. I'll be right by your side. I promise. Forever and ever," she whispered. Trixie sniffled and peered at Twilight helplessly, who nodded her head with a reconfirming peck on the girl's nose. That was all it took for Trixie to throw herself back into Twilight's arms, and that's all it took for Twilight to squeeze her until the tears stopped. And they stayed that way with time melting around them into nothingness. Twilight never wavered. Not in the slightest, and finally, Trixie pulled away with a quiet hiccup and forced a shaky smile. Him. Sorry. The great and powerful Trixie doesn't know where that came from." Trixie sniffled, rubbing a hoof over her nose. "We should probably get back to research," she mumbled. Twilight, to her surprise, however, shook her head and squeezed a hoof gently around Trixie's shoulder. "Actually, I think I'd like to just watch the storm for a little while," she whispered, leaning against Trixie gently. "Okay," Trixie squeaked, leaning back against Twilight. And so they did, and the storm raged outside, and inside they were quiet, and safe, and happy. Thank you for listening in. I hope you enjoyed the reading. Until next time, stay tuned.